Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning into another Supatease video. And there are a lot of class changes coming in on Tuesday. I will have a video covering all of those changes linked at the end of this one. But the most notable change that is important in reference to this video is that Discipline Priest, which is representing over 50% of the healers at the moment in PvP, is getting very significant nerfs. And there are other healers lurking in the wings, ready to take that #1 position. And I think one of those healers is mainly Restoration Shaman. And I've been having an absolute blast on this specialization. I put it in my top 5 most fun specs for the first patch of the expansion, and that still remains to be the case for Season 2. And with some of the changes and improvements that they've made to the specialization, particularly the farseer hero talent tree, it is remarkably powerful. So in today's video, I wanted to give you a guide, a rundown, my talent build, my strategy, my rotation, in order to enable you to have the same amount of fun and success on the specialization should you choose to play it as well. So some of the biggest changes that you're going to want to note with farseer is that our ancestors that spawn, they're going to be giving us affected by mastery now. So their healing output is significantly higher, and they have also buffed healing wave by a lot. And by buffing Healing Wave, because we get Ancestral Swiftness, which is 30 seconds faster than Nature's Swiftness, we can basically lay on hands every 30 seconds. So we've got a lot of strong passive instant healing, and we have the ability to top off allies quite rapidly as a result of that with these changes towards Resto Shaman. Those are the main things that are really propping the specialization up from previous tiers, but it still has all of the same great tricks up its sleeves from the previous patch, things like Static Field Totem, where you can place the totem on the ground and then move enemy attackers away or towards your allies. It's easily the most fun mechanic. Anytime I'm doing that, I'm immediately really happy when I'm doing it. You also have Traveling Storms and Thunderstorm, which enables you to target an ally. If I have an ally sitting around nearby me, that you can thunderstorm enemies away from without needing to get too close to combat. So it's heavily based around knockbacks. And you also have Capacitator Totem, which is actually super underrated. I have been able to win a lot of games with this totem by sniping it around corners on enemy healers and catching them with an Earth Grab route so they aren't able to escape from its grasp. And then the Double Cap Totem gets them chain CC'd for a really long time for either to hex them, knock them behind a pillar, or Static Field Totem them around the corners. So this type of utility, to me personally, is what makes Restoration Shaman really fun. It still has powerful effects like Grounding Totem, which is probably one of the best abilities in the game. It's just basically 3 seconds of immunity to spells if you can get it in a good position on a map. And they've also updated Earthshield with the talent Therazane's Resilience, so that Earthshield is no longer going to lose charges, which gives you more opportunities to do other things with your globals that you weren't able to do before. So now when you apply Earthshield, it's basically just a permanent duration. It still is susceptible to being purged, and that is the main weakness of Restoration Shaman, is if your Earthshield is frequently getting purged off, you will struggle to recover in a lot of situations. But the fact that it has an indefinite number of charges means that you have more time to do more of the fun stuff that Shaman has available to it. Now, I pretty much don't change this talent setup at all, almost ever. I think the only time I would really change anything is I would take the Double Cap Totem stun and I would move it over to the decurse slot if I'm allowed to do that. I don't know why I'm not allowed to do that. Oh, it's because I'm in combat. I would lose the Guardian's Cudgel here, and I would pick up Improved Purify Spirit, and this would be again against Shamans, Warlocks, those main kind of curse classes that are available in the game. That would be the main talent shift that I would do. Maybe if the meta shifts towards where we're training Shamans, which I really haven't noticed it too hard to survive at the moment as a Resto Shaman, maybe we would find a way to get into these like stamina-oriented talents to make ourselves a little bit more durable. But as it stands right now in the current meta for Season 2, I haven't felt like that's 100% necessary. And pretty much everything else doesn't change. So let's just start talking about the rotation. So the main goal, obviously, is to keep Earthshield on the target that you think is getting attacked. That is the main goal. Next goal is to keep Riptide on any targets you think are going to get attacked. The next main goal is to have at least one Healing Stream Totem down on the ground at any moment. And then the next one is to make sure that you're using Unleash Life on cooldown. And this is the very important part, because Unleash Life is a significant heal, 1.5 mil, and it buffs our Riptide to 1.6 mil on this training dummy. So if we're keeping one healing stream, sometimes you'll use 2 at the same time, depending on how much damage you're anticipating. Might be the start of a match and you're really struggling, but main goal is keep Riptide up, keep Earthshield up, and you just spam Unleash on cooldown, and then you Riptide the target that's taking the most amount of damage. If you're struggling with interrupts, you can just keep spamming Riptide as the target gets lower. You can see that it does a significant amount of healing, like 1.6 million. Generally, our opener is going to be a Healing Tide totem. So we're going to put a Healing Tide totem down. This will make our healing surges instant cast. We'll have 3 of them, but we want to be buffing them with Riptide. So we want to buff Riptide, get tidal waves, and then this is going to increase the critical strike chance of this. So we get a really big healing surge. So you can just spam Riptide into healing surge spam to get rid of these tidal wave charges, and we can get a lot of instant healing in the opener. You'll likely couple that Healing Tide with an Earthen Wall totem. I generally recommend that you do use your totemic recall here to reset your Earthen Wall totem, especially if you know a target's gonna be able to stay in it. Sometimes I will use my totemic recall to recall my grounding totem, so you can get 2 grounding totems in a row. This is really good against casters like Devastation Evoker or Boomkins, where you can completely negate all their Star Surges and Disintegrate spams by just resetting that. And especially if you're having a tough time with Earthen or you're lower rated and people don't stay in the totem, you can use it to reset grounding against casters. It's really effective. And you can also use it on Static Field totem against melee in order to pull them around with projection, which is another important combo. When you're in a real emergency situation, you're going to use Unleash and then use your Nature Swiftness to a healing wave, and that's going to be your biggest heal. That's going to almost always top the target. After you've used your Healing Tide, I generally go into using Ascendance as my next main recovery tool. You basically have like 3 sets of 2 to 3 minute cooldowns that you rotate between. This should get you through a lot of situations. You can use Spirit Walker's Grace, which will allow you to immune interrupts. So you can cast Healing Surge on the move and be immune to interrupts. If you're ever in one of those pressured situations and you've run out of Unleash charges, if you run out of Riptide charges, you can use that to get around it. And then when the next big wave of damage comes through, the 3rd cooldown I typically use is Spirit Link Totem. It's like a last line of defense. Now, sometimes these cooldowns will shift in their order. It's usually always Healing Tide in the opener just because you'll get 2 of them in a game because it's roughly a 2 minute cooldown, whereas it's very hard to get a 3 minute cooldown twice in a match. So I will tend to use my 3 minute cooldowns later, but I might interchange them. Sometimes you might use them at the same time. It depends on positioning, right? If Spirit Link is a better option because I'm really close by and everyone's high health and it's one target that's low, I might use Link. If everybody's dying at the same time, I would likely use Ascendance. That's going to be your main goal, your main objective. Another thing I should note is that you may want to change Gust of Wind for Spirit Walk. And this is to get yourself out of solar beams from Boomkins. I generally have actually been liking Spirit Walk more than Gust of Wind. This is actually Sea-Doo's talent build. I personally actually like Spirit Walk in a lot of cases because sometimes you can get rooted behind a pillar and you're just in this weird spot and you can't get out of line. And sometimes the jump takes too long of an animation. Like when you use the jump itself, you're just kind of spending a lot of time in the air and not able to really do a lot of like emergency situation healing if you really need to. And while you're doing all of this, you can also maintain Flame Shocks, which will be proccing your Lava Bursts, which will allow you to do damage. So this is like the end. After you've got the healing rotation, the cooldown rotation down, and you've got that all settled, that's when you start incorporating the Flame Shocks. At Resto Shaman, it's still the same. You're still stacking Mastery. That's your main goal. We're getting embellishments so that healing is redistributed from our embellishments here. This is a really good one. And I do have the 2-piece bonus. It's actually been really good. Your healing spells just have a chance to apply insurance. It's basically about 4 to 5% healing increase onto the target. Now, I don't know if I'm going to go for 4-set because you basically would have to play Totemic, right? Because it's based around Healing Rain. And my experience playing Totemic so far is I just really don't like it. I think in PvP it's hard to make it work because people just run out of the totem constantly. So I'm likely not going to be going for the 4-piece and just staying as farseer unless some balance changes come through and completely destroy Resto Shaman. And I think we'd all be really mad at Blizzard if they came in and made PvP changes and nerfed more healers, considering how hard it is currently to heal in the game. So hopefully that doesn't end up happening. Hopefully we can just see some buffs to the other healers so they can feel as awesome. Because to me, I think Resto Shaman is just fitting in a really good spot at the moment in the meta. So let's look at some gameplay. Let's apply the lessons we've learned. We know what stats to get. We know what talents to take. I'll have the talent code linked in the description as well if you want to copy that down. We understand our rotation, what we're doing in between. So let's get some like live gameplay here and just kind of cover what exactly is going down. So in this lobby, there's a lot of melee DPS. So knockbacks and static field totems are going to be really important for us to utilize. And remember, we use Healing Tide totem very early. We've got Urshield on the Ret Paladin, who I anticipate will be the target because he's not in stealth. Urshield on ourselves, and we can static field the warrior into a root. You can also use Cap Totem. So look, I've taken this warrior out of the game. We're trapped, but because we've CC'd the warrior, nobody's going to take damage on our team. We're proccing insurance from our set bonus. We're spamming Riptides as we're moving forward. And I just kind of immediately put Healing Tide totem down. I should likely move the Healing Tide a little bit towards my team here because the hunter started attacking it. But again, game starts, I see enemy cooldowns. That healing tide is just going down basically. And I'm sort of waiting for my rogue to stun the target that they're attacking before using earthen, because you can see right here, it becomes hard. My earthen wall's down. They've all charged out of it because the hunter is moving. I managed to find a chance to hex the priest here, and I'm trying to spirit link because we're just taking a ton of damage. So this is like the panic situation, especially if you're at lower rating, especially with how high damage is, where you don't necessarily want to have to overlap a lot of those cooldowns. But if you don't have a lot of faith or trust in your allies to use defensive cooldowns, you may have to. And I think it's better to just shove everything and make sure that you survive, especially when you're learning a class, as opposed to being greedy and then just losing rounds and being annoyed because the paladin didn't bubble even though you still had link. I think it's better to just throw everything that you've got, and you're basically just spamming Riptide. This whole time I'm just spamming Riptide. I see an opportunity maybe to get a couple of casts out here, a hex off of the stun, and we're able to get that hex with no trinket. We've got the hunter low. We want to try and apply flame shock now that we got the team top, but he turtled it. We blind the priest here as well, so they're still CC'd. We grow out the priest. I static field the hunter to pull him back to our allies, and we get the kill. And that's where this like satisfying part of playing Resto Shaman comes in, is when you're able to get clutch moments like that, where you static field a healer behind the pillar, or you pull somebody in like a death grip, and you manage to secure the kill for your team in those positions. But you can see healing is definitely still very challenging in the current meta, and don't be afraid to just basically shove everything. Don't rely 100% on your earthen wall, especially when your allies are chasing something like a hunter. I think the best time to use earthen wall is when your allies are stunned. So here against a rogue, whenever kidney shot is applied to a target, using earthen wall totem then is going to be the best time, because they can't get out of it. They're in a kidney shot. So generally that's my thought pattern when you're in a lobby like this where your melee are going to chase a ranged. I'm trying to get combat, so ripped out of my allies, not able to. We get sapped. I expect the ret to be the target because they can use sanctuary if they're not CC'd. So I've got Earth Shield on the ret paladin. We're spamming Riptides, getting insurance up. And here we're just tossing down as much healing as we can. We've got healing tide available, and look at this. I just put it down very early. This gives us the instant healing surges. I use Spirit Walkers to immune a silence here, so the hunter put up a poison, and I utilize the interrupt immunities to get a hex at the same time. Now I static field the hunter to prevent him from kiting for a moment. I'm tossing out earth grab roots onto the hunter. I'm tossing out cap totems as well to disrupt the rogue and to disrupt their escape from my melee allies. And this is where like the highest level of play of shaman comes in, where your teammates are absolutely going to love you, is when you're actively using knockbacks and roots to enable your team to connect to their target. And if you're not doing that, you're going to likely have a lot more of a struggle. We're keeping healing stream totems on cooldown. We're keeping Unleash Shield on cooldown. We're keeping Earth Shield up. You can see the priest is purging it here. So this is where it becomes a bit stressful. So we got to keep Earth Shield up as much. With Nature Swiftness, 3 million heal. Just an immediate 30-second top off, big pop heal. I'm going to stun up the hunter, move away from the rogue, and cancel it because the rogue's getting close. I don't want him to kick it. And that gets aspect of the turtle. We're still going to trinket. I drop a link. So trinket link is generally like a good combo. If you trinket without linking, then you end up being sad when you get CC later and you can't use link. But we've used link and ascendance at the same time because we're still kind of all dying. I windshare the priest. I'm trying to keep momentum. This is a really fast-paced lobby. Like some of the highest burst damage in the game with a Acid Rogue and a Fury Warrior. I think Acid Rogue is one of the most sleeper DPS as far as power at the moment. Ultimate Penitence. Honestly, should have windsheared that one. So you can use Grounding Totem also during that window. I think I must have tried to ground a Freezing Trap. It's really Freezing Trap or Ultimate Penance that you're trying to ground in this matchup. We get a lay on hands there. We're still just using instant heals. I try to go for a Hex. We get scattered. I see like we're on Forbearance and we're kind of really stressed out right now with how low we are, but the hunter is low as well. So I static the rogue, try and do something to try and prevent him from escaping. Really tough situation. The PvP gets pretty stressful in a lot of cases in that situation, but just trying to make sure that your team can close out the game is usually a good idea. The only thing I find with Shaman that's annoying is how many buffs you have. I almost wish that they would like bake Sky Fury into Water Shield or something, so you can just press one bind and it buffs your team with, Sky Fury as well as applying Water Shield to yourself or something. I feel like keybind density on Resto Shaman is still really high, and trying to find a way to bring that down a little bit would definitely make it more accessible for a lot of players in the game, and even for someone like me who's like a long time veteran of the spec. I've definitely noticed the volume of keybinds is very difficult to play with. Toss out an Earth Grab on this ret, trying to bait him to use a Freedom really early on. Static field him over to his priest, drop down a Cap Totem, and we've got them both CC'd while we're going after the hunter. Now I'm stunned into a trap. So we got Earth Shield on the warrior. Again, I put it on the target that's not in stealth, so I kind of expect that target to be the one that gets attacked first, but I am aware that they can swap to rogue, keep Unleash on cooldown, keep one healing stream on cooldown, get ready to use Healing Tide pretty soon as I see the priest moving towards me, so I'm trying to pre-Healing Tide his fear. And I'm trying to pre-tremor as well if I can, but I get caught in a repentance. But it's not a big deal because we got the Healing Tide totem down. It's supporting us a lot during this crowd control, and we still have these instant healing surges to recover after we come out of CC. So I'm not going to panic or overreact in that position. And we have Nature Swiftness, not to mention, to be able to get everybody back in the game when we're spamming Riptides. And now positioning towards the priest would be a good idea so I can wind shear him. If you get a wind shear, it can be really tough to just even recover as a priest on a penance because it buffs up their powered shield so much. So wind shearing penance really fast is a really good idea. Sometimes you'll have to wind shear other casts as well, like Ultimate Penitence. Those are the two main casts. Go for a move cast Hex to avoid the Hunter interrupt. We got the priest Hexed. Hunter's getting low. I could use Earth Grab Roots here, but I'm trying to stun the priest around the corner. Rhett comes in for a Hodge. So we're going to move over towards our team. And I actually Trinket the Hodge. Tried to pre-tremor, didn't get it off in time. So this is where trinketing before Link gets really stressful. I knew my teammate would take a lot of damage, so I was like trinketing ahead of time. Blessing of Protection here, we got to purge that. So we're going to try and purge Blessing of Protection. Blessing of Freedom, also a good time to try and purge and Power Infusion in this type of matchup. So those three icons whenever I see them, I'm trying to purge almost immediately. Dispel Searing Glare off the Rogue. We get stunned into a trap. And again, I don't have a trinket because I trinketed that Hodge. So this is really stressful when you don't have trinket and Link is your main last defensive. You need to start playing closer to your allies. So I'm kind of staying next to the Rogue, next to the Warrior. I'm aware that Link might need to be popped out at any moment. I drop a cap to try and hit the priest on his way in, but they kill the cap totems before he can get in range to deny the fear. And now my team is getting pulled far away from me. So this is where, again, when you don't have a trinket and they're getting pulled far away and they're purging your Earth Shield, it becomes very tough to heal. Ultimate Penitence, we're going to ground it, get in position, and just drop Link. We drop Link, we drop the Hunter, and we get the W at the same time. And those are the things that you need to be aware of. The only thing we haven't seen a lot of is if you get targeted. And if you get targeted, you have Astral Shift and you have your big Totem Shield Absorb Stone Bulwark. Stone Bulwark, if there's purges that can hit you really close by, you may want to reserve it till later. But Astral Shift is still really powerful. You just activate those if you're really getting attacked at the start of the game because everybody's shoving their cooldowns pretty much immediately in those situations. But I think it is a really fun healer. And then once you get comfortable with the healing rotation, the cooldown rotation, you're finally able to actually start incorporating its offense. You really get to see where it shines with the hexes, with the lava bursts. And I was surprised, honestly, at its performance overall. I definitely would rank it as like maybe second or third healer at the moment in the meta. But after the changes, it could definitely be coming up the ranks in that regard. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you guys enjoyed this guide. Hope it helps you out in your climb and your goals towards getting your rating. It's also got a really sick looking elite set that I'm glad that I've got right now. So hopefully this helps you guys get to that. If you want to support the channel, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Comment down below with your thoughts. What has been your favorite spec to play so far in patch 11.1. And other than that, thank you very much for watching the video, and I will see you in the next one.